Hello everybody, my name is Gerben de Vries and welcome to Conscious Yes, where we talk about spiritual topics. And I went a little bit into, in a previous video, about beliefs and a little bit in psychiatry. I'd like to just go over the institutions, for lack of a better word, on religion, philosophy and psychiatry. I went a little bit into psychiatry, where it's using the past, it's using the ideas of your subjective experience of the past. It's so colored by your own experiences. Whatever experience you go through right now, in the present moment, is going to be colored by your past, right? And it's pretty easy to see how your past experiences shape your experience of the experience of the present moment. It sounds complicated, but it's seeing the world through the filter of you, basically. Then we try, in psychiatry, go back into the past and look at our parents' programming, the voices of our parents and ourselves, even to this present day, the feelings that we've taken over from our parents, how we, maybe as we got bullied as a child, the effects of that now. And can I treat my current anxiety by understanding that, where the responsibilities really lay when I was a child, when my parents put moral responsibilities on me that they didn't follow. Do as I say, not as I do, right? So it's the idea of causality, that why I feel this way that I do now is caused by how my upbringing was. And to a degree that's very true, but look at the limitations of that. Is that whatever we remember is going to be so colored by our own past. And so in psychiatry we'll try to look at the commonalities, why people act a certain way when they do. And for instance, that if you were neglected as a child, that in all the neglected children there's a certain outcome as an adult. So that they have a commonality. There's a common thing we find in grown-ups that have been neglected as a child, right? And so we look at certain behavior or whatever and we say, that's how you came this way. That's how you came to be. That's one side. And then there's how we look at a particular fear or a particular anxiety, instead of looking at fear or anxiety itself, how it comes about. I went into that a little bit in the previous video. In short, like we're trying to say this is how anxiety came about for me in this life, because I've got bullied as a child at school, and that's why I'm feeling anxious right now. In a similar situation, like in social environments or whatever, I feel anxious because the anxiety arose when I got bullied. So we're looking at a particular anxiety, like how it came about, instead of how anxiety moves and how it comes about. I went into that, and I went into how causality, the idea of the past creating the present creating the future, really the past being the future, because we don't change, right? If you're going to do what you've always done, you're going to end up with what you've always gotten, right? That whole idea, and how we slice up our pasts to try and make sense of the present. But really the present, the past and the future are all mental concepts. There is the present, which is life, this moment. But when I call it the present, it's already something else. That's important to see. That any mental ideas about time, about future or past, that's not real, doesn't exist. It's not factual. Anything that is future or past is not factual, because it's what you remembered, and what you remember is so colored. And we are influenced by so many things that thinking that we know how we came about, how we are this person, is completely delusional. We are shaped by so many things that we don't see consciously. By our peers, TV, media, all these things. Ideas are planted, and belief systems, and through school, things propagandized about what it means to be a person. And spirituality, that is the freedom of that. So in that way, psychiatry is limited, and it's very helpful. It's proven to be helpful for a lot of people. Really great, But in spirituality, when we're looking for freedom just freedom in general, psychiatry is shaving away little bits. It's coping. It's a coping mechanism. It's a coping faculty. It's looking into our past, trying to soften up, It's like taking the SSRIs. This is the responsibility was not in your hands, it was your parents. So you can feel a little bit more relaxed. It's okay. You don't have to, don't be so hard on yourself. It's great. It's a great opening to something better, to something greater. And self-knowledge is not the accumulation of ideas about yourself. Which is what we in general do. And then we're either very hard on ourselves, or we pat ourselves on the back a little bit too much. In philosophy and religion, we perhaps say, like in psychiatry with Freud, it says there's inherently, we have this libidinous nature, this crazy, sexual, chaotic nature that has to be controlled somehow. That has to be gone into and controlled. And so religion, philosophy, has to create guidelines and ethical, moral behaviors, rules, that if you follow this, you'll be virtuous. You'll be doing the right thing. You've got to control this beast. Religion, if you look at the past of human life, it's been pretty grim. The violence, towards each other. Not that long ago, 80% of the people were in farming, 16-hour days, work, labor work. Violent, dangerous. There's not a lot to look up to. Life is pretty grim. And so the ideas of heaven sounds really good. And to be afraid of hell, is a huge weapon to try and keep people in control. Keep people civilized. We want a certain society that is civil and not too much unrest. To be at peace, because there's so much war. And so instead of dealing with the effects of war and the problem of war, we say we have to create peace. So there's violence, we beat each other's head in. Philosophers come together and say we have to create peace. There has to be peace in the world, and this is how we do it. If you follow these rules, you'll be peaceful. You'll be ethical, and you'll be good. And we buy that because philosophy deals with logics. It's God as logics, and in religion there's the threat of heaven and hell. And to hold that threat over a child's head. If you don't do what the priest says, if you don't do what I say, because I am the authority on good and bad, because I heard it from the priest and the priest got it from God, or we got it from the king and the queen, they're representatives of God, so they'll know what right and wrong is. If you hold that above a child's head, if you don't do this, you'll go to heaven, you'll burn in eternity. You know how that's abuse, right? That's incredible abuse, mental abuse. And religion so says control, and we have to do all sorts of things to keep people be part of this, have people buy this belief. Because we have to create good people. And of course there's a ton of agendas behind that. There's a ton of money in religion. We all know that the destructive nature of religion, besides giving away your belief, besides finding an inner compass for what's right and wrong, the destructive nature of religions, how, over wars, because in the name of a certain God. So in the name of goodness, a ton of evil gets done. Philosophy, logics. Trying to make sense of the reality of life, of being, through logics. Which raises the question, can something be true but not be proven to be true, right? And there was a mathematician called Kurt Gödels who showed, he had a few different theorems on incompleteness and completeness. He showed the limitations of even mathematics and philosophy and logics in that matter. He showed that 2 + 2 = 4 is a strong tendency, And in logics, we know the liar's paradox that says, the statement of this statement is false. When it's true, it's false, and when it's false, it's true. And Kurt Gödels, he went a step further. He said, came up with the statement, this statement cannot be proven, which puts huge limitations on philosophy, on logics. Because paradox is, for philosophers, their kryptonite, right? We cannot have paradox at all. Paradox is the devil, and we gotta stay away from that as far as we can. Logics, no gray area. This statement cannot be proven. When it's true, it says it cannot be proven, so it's false. When it's false, it says the statement cannot be proven. It says that, so then it's true, right? And a computer, and this is important to understand, because some people gravitate towards logics, and a computer cannot compute that. Because something has to be true or false. And so it says a paradox cannot compute. But paradox is the most important thing. It's a very important thing in life, because we are a paradox. We, as a you are a paradox. You are the black and white. You are why these things meet. You are the mind, you are the brain, and you are the mind. You are the physical and the psychological. You are we need both. We are good and bad. I've went into another video about good and bad. How in nature everything is opposite, right? Light and dark, and day and night, and they're both needed. You cannot have one without the other. The brain cannot make sense of reality that way. If there's only darkness or only light, there's no distinction, and therefore, like plants need both light and darkness to grow. That's how language works too, in opposites and silence and sound and the space and matter, ones and zeros. To be or not to be. So, and we are where the paradox meets each other, where they get along, where the feminine and the masculine energy meets and gets along, is complementary. That's a beautiful place to be. It's where the mind and the brain, or let's say the physical and the psychological meet. There's that lightning, there's that intelligence of understanding life. It's so beautiful. So paradox is so important, and logic has, I think, a great place in society, or where it has to be applied to politics, to economics, and to the outer world. Logic is it's very great to have a logical understanding of your own thoughts and critical thinking and seeing the erroneous thoughts, where thoughts self-detonate, or where we're so... Yeah, this is where we can look at gullibility, and I think logic is very crucial, but it's limited. Also, because it deals only with... It operates in the realm of language. With the mind, with brain, thoughts. And mathematics, on numbers, which is invented by men, is incredibly useful to describe nature, right? To describe the laws of physics. Numbers are somehow incredibly accurate. Mathematics and nature, they go together. In how's that possible? It's an invention of men. And so philosophy or logic thinks that in the same way language somehow can have that same place. But language has incredible limits, and so does mathematics, because it needs the system, the formal system of itself, to be true. But there's more than just language. There's more than just numbers. In the same way that there's more than just the ego. There's something that is observing the ego. There's you. Something observes all of life going on, including your thoughts, your beliefs, all the ideas that you've taken on. Something is there to interpret, to believe or either not to believe. And there's this continuous consciousness that is always there, always aware. It's the thing that watches the dreams, right? There's something outside of the box, always, with everything. All ideas, there's something outside of it. And that's the beauty of the incompleteness theorem by Kurt Gödels. And shows the limitations of ourselves, our ideas, how we try to interpret life, trying to make sense of things. That's really important. We're trying to conclude. The mind loves conclusions. If something is so, then I can stand on it. Then I can put an identity on it. I can identify with a conclusion. Say, that's me. I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm sad, I'm depressed. Conclusions. And life, it's again that paradox of we can conclude things in the physical realm. If you don't brush your teeth, you'll get cavities. Generalizations. We can use all sorts of theories, that are generalizations. We want to conclude everything because the mind can rest. It wants to find that peace of eternity, saying something is so, period. It always wants to look for eternity because it's afraid. It's afraid of not being. And so in the future we will all do all sorts of things to try and be forever. Through technology, because that's where we think we can find peace. Again, like where the mind thinks it can rest, right? Just want to be at peace. So I want to conclude, say this is so. And so we're so eager to believe somebody when somebody sells us a belief and says this is so, okay, great. I can rest on that for a moment. When you're in your teens and your girlfriend says that she loves you, there's that temporarily feeling of complete peace or something, do you know? That's the male energy is at its extreme, so insecure and needs that. And so the ego says, oh yeah, okay, I'm loved. I can rest for a moment. See, conclusions are so interesting in that way. And so we could try to conclude about the universe through philosophy, through physics. But life doesn't want to be concluded because it's alive. It's constantly changing. It makes up its own mind. It's you. Look how life can change, It doesn't want to be concluded because it's trying to take a photograph of life, of trees, and say that's it. But we're alive. We're a living thing. My cells are changing every 6 years. The air that I breathe, metabolism. We all know that, right? It's all life. It's ongoing, so it doesn't want to be concluded. So whatever we try conclusions to try to come up with, that say this is how it is, it's always going to be very limited. We can never, if I say this is life, there's so much going on. There's different leaves and animals in the ground, and do you know what I mean? So conclusions about oneself we have to be very aware of, noticing. It's just very limited. Conclusions about anything. And don't shut the door. Follow information if you want to learn. Let your compass heading, it's in inging, right? It's a constant inging. It's loving, it's understanding, it's compass heading towards truth, towards finding out what is true and what feels right, and make up for yourself. Learn about yourself that way. And use psychiatry, philosophy, where it's useful. And for the rest, be fluid, be agile, be subtle, be nuanced. Don't close the door on things. Look at the spiritual trap of trying to stand on things, trying to look for these axioms, these ideas that we think are true enough. Very interesting, it's fun to speculate, but no, it's speculation. It's the game of life. Is great if you can play it. If not, you're going to be in fear. Fear is okay. We're here to learn. It's no conclusion. It's okay. We can live and go. Fall and stand up again, Okay, I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for your time, and have a good day. Thanks. Bye.